2020 has been a crazy ride. It's been a roller coaster of a year, and it hasn't even ended yet. Oh my God, we're only halfway through it. So it's probably safe to say that it changed all of our lives to some degree. It definitely turned my entire world upside down. At the beginning of the year, I was working on filming a travel show for TV that's now postponed until further notice. All of my trips, all of the travel that I had planned for the year has been cancelled. At the beginning of March, I found myself on the island of Socotra in Yemen, and I stayed on that island for the next 80 days. 80 days. That means that I got to spend pretty much the entire lockdown in Socotra. And you know what? I'm so lucky and so blessed to have been there on that incredible island, surrounded by really beautiful, kind, and generous people. I'm so privileged. So privileged. But I knew that situation wouldn't last forever. I knew that at some point I had to leave the island. The political situation on the island was slowly deteriorating while we were there. And in fact, 3 weeks after we left, which is kind of now, this is what happened. And there was one more problem. The windy season, the monsoon season, also known as Kharif locally, was upon us. So Kharif starts at the beginning of June and it lasts until October. And the winds are so strong that they basically cut off the island from the rest of the world for about 4 months. And I knew that if I stayed on the island, I ran the risk of being stuck there until autumn. My friends and I spent about a month trying to find a way off the island since the beginning of May. See, there was no coronavirus on the island, and as far as I know, there still isn't, but the island was definitely keen to protect itself and its people from the virus, so there were very limited travel options available. No planes were allowed to land in Socotra, and the only ships and boats that were kind of available were either going to mainland Yemen, where the coronavirus situation was becoming worse and worse, or Oman, which was completely closed to visitors because of the travel restrictions as a result of the pandemic. So we didn't really know what we could do to even leave. And for a month we struggled and slowly fell into a state of, well, on some days indifference, on some days despair, and on other days a kind of hope that everything will work out. And then after several weeks, a breakthrough. We were granted permission to take a cargo ship to Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates. And this is the story of that journey. How do you feel about leaving?
Well, I'm very hyped because I don't know if you record because there's a tool on the screen.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, I'm very hyped to go and very hyped. But the story about the cyclone is not very exciting. But okay, we go.
Oh, wait, there's a cyclone? How are you feeling?
Normal.
How are you feeling about leaving?
I feel good.
That's it?
Don't I look so excited? There is a cyclone around as we leave.
I'm hearing this cyclone word over and over again. And you, Nick?
It's not about hearing it over and over. Just check the weather forecast and see that we're going towards it.
Nope. Yeah, it was true. All weather forecasts predicted that a massive cyclone coming all the way from India would hit right about the time we were 2 days into the journey. I just hoped that we wouldn't end up like this guy. Finally, it was time to board the ship. And this is the final goodbye. That's the luggage. That's the boat. With the bags loaded and the anchor lifted, that was it. Day 80 on the island. And tonight, I'm on a cargo ship because I'm finally headed home. I'm going back, sailing from Socotra Island in Yemen to Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates on a cargo ship for the next 6 days. The next morning, I woke up really missing the island. But I also woke up in the middle of the ocean, which made me realize that this would be a pretty long journey. Our ship was taking us from Socotra in the Gulf of Aden near to Somalia, up north along the coast of Oman, around the corner into the Gulf, right through the Strait of Hormuz, very close to Iran, then down into the Persian Gulf. Well, the Arab Gulf according to Arab people, then down south to the UAE and the port of Abu Dhabi. The whole journey? 2,500 kilometers on a ship similar to this one but smaller and slower. Our average speed? Around 8 knots or 15 kilometers an hour. Well, at least we were in this guy crossing the Arabian Sea on a tiny wooden boat called the Sambuk. For me, time began to slow down. I spent the afternoon sitting on the open deck, watching the sea, watching the water change shape and color. The cyclone was nowhere to be seen.
And sometimes, but only sometimes, we get to see other boats. This one is massive. It's like a 400-meter boat. Huge! When you're sitting outside on the ship like this, these waves look like they're small mini tsunamis. A little bit unsettling.
But it wasn't always the smoothest of rides. Luckily, despite rough weather at first, we never did run into the cyclone. From what the captain of our ship told me, this is the nature of life at sea, sometimes unpredictable. For now, let's go inside. Let me show you where we lived. Welcome to the cabin. There's a couple of really important instructions here on the back of the cabin door. Very handy. What to do in case of a general alarm, a fire alarm, man overboard, abandoned ship. Man overboard is probably the one that interests me the most. In case there is a man overboard, it's 3 long blasts. 3 long blasts. There is a desk, there is a shelf, there is a wardrobe, there is a seat, there is a chair, and there is the bathroom. Each bed comes with its own set of curtains as well, just in case you need to unwind, relax, and get some me time. Very important piece of onboard equipment, in fact one that you should acquaint yourself with intimately, is the life jacket. Here we have 2. This is one of them. It's a huge and bulky affair. Probably too tight for my head, but this could save your life. Alright, let's go. If you're a passenger on a cargo ship, there isn't that much to do, so I spend most of my time reading. One of the best things about having 24-hour-a-day electricity again is the laundry. I haven't done proper laundry in 3 months, and man, oh man, it feels so good. In case you're wondering, the food was great. 3 meals a day, prepared by the ship's cook.
6 days at sea, we've got to find a way to pass the time. So Rob here is helping me take some pictures with these beautiful containers.
You've got to fill the hours somehow, right? This is what we came up with. And this was our life for a while. Every day, pretty much the same.
It's a bright and early morning in early June 2020. And the cargo ship that I've been on for the last 7 days is about to arrive in Abu Dhabi in about 1 hour. We've traveled about 2,000 kilometers over 7 days at a speed that's excruciatingly slow. And it's kind of crazy to think that in the next leg of my journey back to Europe, I will travel a distance much, much bigger than that in about 5 or 6 hours on a plane. You don't often get to spend an entire week completely disconnected from Wi-Fi, the internet, the outside world, and sometimes, honestly, that's all you need.
So 3 months on, I was finally back in a place with 4G where I could order a takeaway meal through an app and not have to worry about electricity running out. I started waking up to new views. No more mountains, no more beach, no more open sea, just the grand spectacle of modern times. But even though we had docked at Abu Dhabi port, we weren't allowed to leave the ship. Not yet. Remember COVID-19? Yeah. Day 12. Day 12 on the cargo ship and day 5 inside the port of Abu Dhabi. You can see the city behind me. It's so close. It's almost within arm's reach. In fact, the other day someone on Instagram sent me a picture, a video of our boat from one of those buildings. We're that close, but we're not leaving the boat. We're still here. Honestly, I think this is a quarantine. I'm kind of keen to just get back home, you know? As per the local law, we had a coronavirus test. It came back negative. And then... Oh my god, it's actually happening. Apparently the immigration officials are at the jetty right now, which means that we're gonna go and see if we can get the stamp to leave the ship and enter the United Kingdom. It's been 2 weeks. Do you think we're gonna get out finally? Sure. Inshallah. We waited a couple of days and then... I've got the visa. We've got the visa to enter the UAE. After exactly 14 days, after a corona test that turned out negative, we're able to go into Abu Dhabi as an evacuation measure. And from here, I'll be flying back home. I was so ready to leave, but I actually knew that that wasn't the end of the journey, not quite yet. There was one more really important step that awaited me, and that was the airplane journey back to Europe. And that is a whole story in itself. That's a whole vlog that's coming up next week. Thank you so much for following along on my Socotra adventures. I can't believe that that chapter of my life is over for now, but life goes on and there's a lot more coming up. See you guys next week. Bye. Mwah.